Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're taking a close look at a recent study that's really changing the way we think about how our spines actually develop.
Oh yeah, it's uh, it's pretty remarkable stuff.
Definitely. So imagine, if you can, scientists actually creating like a mini spine in a lab setting
Yeah,
using stem
I
cells.
know, it's amazing.
That's exactly what researchers over at the Francis Crick Institute have pulled off. And it's a big deal, to say the least. They've basically figured out how to grow this really crucial part of the early spine. It's called the notochord.
Yeah, the notochord.
And this notochord basically acts like a guide for how the whole spine
That's
forms.
right. Well, you can think of it like a blueprint for the whole backbone.
Okay, a
As
blue.
an embryo is developing,
Mhm.
this notochord sends out all these signals that tell other cells what to become.
Mhm.
So, whether they're going to be bone or nerves or all the other different parts that end up making up the spine.
Wow, so it's like the conductor of the orchestra?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, what's really interesting is that until now, scientists have had a really, really tough time trying to replicate this structure in a lab.
I see.
So it's like trying to build a house without any plans.
Yeah, you're just kind of winging it.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
can't really build a house without the plans. So you can see why this breakthrough is such a big deal.
I can imagine. So what's really fascinating to me is that these stem cells, they didn't just form the notochord, right?
Right.
They went on to organize themselves into these like miniature trunk-like structures.
Yeah, it's wild.
And these structures have a bunch of different types of cells in them, including bone cells and nerve cells,
Uh-huh.
all perfectly arranged just like they would be in a developing embryo.
It's incredible,
And
really.
we're talking about like tiny little versions of our torsos here,
Pretty much, yeah.
complete with a little developing spine and nervous system.
Yeah,
That's
I
insane.
know. It really opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Right, because for the first time now, we have a model that's actually realistic that we can use to study how human spines develop.
Exactly.
Mm.
And we can do this all in a dish,
Yeah.
in a lab,
Yeah.
which is just mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. So we can start to figure out all the complicated steps of how this whole process works, and maybe even more importantly, what happens when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Because as you know,
Yeah.
things can definitely go wrong.
Yeah, like spina bifida, scoliosis, like these are serious conditions
Very serious.
that affect a lot of people.
So many people.
Yeah.
And we've really been in the dark when it comes to what causes a lot of these conditions.
It's a mystery.
But now with this research, we finally have a chance to look at those very, very early stages of spinal development.
Okay, I see.
And who knows? This could lead to totally new ways to diagnose and treat these conditions and maybe even prevent them altogether.
Okay, now that's what I really want to dig into, because we've all heard about stem cells and how amazing they are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But to actually see them in action like this, like
Yeah.
guiding the formation of a mini spine,
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So what is it about embryonic stem cells that makes them so powerful?
Well, they have this incredible ability called pluripotency.
Pluripotency.
And what that means is they have the potential to become any type of cell in the entire human body.
So they're like the ultimate starting point.
They're like blank slates.
Yeah.
And this study basically took advantage of that potential to create a functional notochord and those incredible trunk-like structures that we're talking about.
So if you gave these embryonic stem cells the right instructions, they could theoretically create any part of the human body.
Theoretically, yeah. And that's what makes stem cell research so exciting.
Yeah, so powerful.
It's like the future of medicine.
And this reminds me of something that James Briscoe, the senior author of this study, said.
Yeah.
He called this breakthrough, like opening doors to study developmental conditions that we've been totally in the dark about.
That's a great quote.
It really feels like he's hinting at a whole new frontier in medicine.
He's absolutely right. This is a huge leap forward. And, what's exciting is that this research could have a ripple effect across so many different fields, leading to new ways to treat not just spinal disorders, but a whole range of developmental conditions. It's a real game changer.
Yeah, it's a totally new way of looking at things. Up until this point, we've been stuck studying animal models or, using human cells, but in a way that didn't really show us the whole picture of how spines develop.
I say.
But this new model, this gives us a direct look at the human process, which is so important if we want to create treatments that actually work.
That makes sense. So this could be huge for regenerative medicine too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If we can grow mini spines in a lab, what else can we do?
The possibilities are pretty much endless, Imagine being able to repair a damaged spinal cord
Okay.
by replacing the injured cells with healthy new ones that we grew from the patient's own stem cells. That's the kind of future we're looking at.
Wow. So we're not just talking about treating the symptoms. We could
Yeah.
actually reverse the damage.
Yep.
That's the goal. And while we're not quite there yet, this research is a huge step in the right direction.
Yay.
It gives us a way to test new therapies,
Mm-hmm.
screen for drugs, and really study how spinal cord injuries happen
Mm-hmm.
and how we can repair them.
Yeah.
And all of this in humans, not just animals.
So it's like the foundation for personalized medicine for spinal disorders.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
By using a patient's own stem cells, we could create treatments that are specifically designed for them
Okay.
based on their unique needs and their genes.
So it's like a perfect match.
Yeah. And that means the treatments would be more effective and there's less risk of rejection.
That sounds like science fiction.
I know, right? But it's happening.
It's really happening. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So all of this is really a testament to how far stem cell research has come.
Absolutely. And it's only going to get more exciting from here on out.
Speaking of exciting, I read somewhere that scientists are already looking at using stem cells to treat other parts of the nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
like the brain.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There are clinical trials going on right now exploring how we can use stem cells to treat conditions like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, even stroke.
Oh.
The idea is to replace those damaged brain cells with healthy new ones
Okay.
and potentially restore the function that was lost.
So there's really no limit to what stem cell research can do.
It seems that way, but of course, there are always challenges.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
One of the biggest challenges is controlling how those stem cells differentiate.
What do you mean?
Well, we need to make sure they develop into the right type of cell at the right time and in the right place.
Okay.
It's a super complex process, and we're still working on perfecting the techniques.
So it's like you're conducting an orchestra of cells.
That's a great way to put it.
making sure each one plays its part.
Yeah, and like any good conductor scientists have to be super precise and careful.
That makes sense. And what about safety?
Oh, that's another big one, especially when we're talking about something as delicate as the spine and the nervous system.
Right, those are vital organs.
Exactly. We need to be absolutely sure that any new therapy is tested thoroughly and evaluated before we even think about using it on patients.
Yep.
And, there are a lot of people working on developing standardized protocols and guidelines for stem cell research,
Okay.
just to make sure everything is consistent and safe.
So it's a journey of
Yeah.
taking careful steps.
And learning as we go.
Exactly. But with each step, we're getting closer and closer to understanding this incredible field and really harnessing its full potential.
I agree.
And this research from the Francis Crick Institute, it feels like a massive leap forward.
It is.
It's not just about what they found specifically, it's
Uh-huh.
about what it means for the future of regenerative medicine.
I completely agree. It's a landmark achievement that could completely change how we approach spinal and neurological disorders.
This whole deep dive has been incredible. It's amazing to see how we can create mini spines in a lab.
Yeah.
And the potential for personalized medicine, it feels like we're on the cusp of a medical revolution.
We really are. It's a totally new way of thinking about how we treat diseases.
Yeah.
And stem cell research is leading the way.
Before we move on, I want to touch on something that's been on my mind throughout this conversation.
Okay.
We've been talking about all the good stuff,
Right.
but are there any areas where we need to be cautious?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And while the potential benefits are huge, we have to remember that stem cell research is still a relatively new field.
I see.
And like with any new technology, there are still things we don't know and potential risks that we need to be aware of.
So we need to be excited about the possibilities,
Yeah.
but also proceed responsibly.
Exactly. We need to make sure that any research or any application of this technology is done ethically,
Right.
with patient safety and well-being as the top priorities.
That's a great point. And it actually leads perfectly into our next topic,
Okay.
the ethical considerations surrounding stem cell research.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's a crucial conversation to have,
Right.
especially as this field continues to advance so quickly.
We've covered so much ground talking about the potential of stem cell research, but it's also important to think about the ethical side of things. As we get closer to these incredible treatments, how can we make sure we're moving forward in a way that's responsible and ethical?
Absolutely. That's a really important point. And it's interesting because the conversation around the ethics of stem cells has kind of evolved along with the science itself.
Oh, how so?
Well, in the early days, a lot of the debate focused on the use of embryonic stem cells,
Right.
which, as we know, come from those very early stage embryos.
And that raises questions about where those cells come from.
Exactly. And whether using them is even ethically okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But as the field has progressed, Scientists have actually made huge strides in developing different types of stem cells,
Okay, like what?
like induced pluripotent stem cells.
What are those?
They're also called iPSCs, and these are actually made by reprogramming adult cells.
Reprogramming.
Yeah, it's like turning back the clock on a cell, making it young and pluripotent again.
Wow, so you're basically taking an adult cell and making it act like an embryonic stem cell.
Exactly. And that's been huge for addressing some of those ethical concerns around stem cell research.
Because now you don't need to use embryonic tissue.
Right.
That's amazing. So it seems like science is finding ways to keep moving forward, but also being sensitive to these really complex ethical issues.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm.
And that ongoing conversation between science and ethics is crucial.
Yeah.
As we keep pushing the limits of what we can do with stem cells,
Yeah.
we need to have open and honest conversations about what it all means. What are the implications of this really powerful technology?
And to me, it seems like transparency is key.
Absolutely.
And involving the public in these conversations so that stem cell research can benefit everyone.
I completely agree. We need to help people understand stem cell science
Mm-hmm.
and get them involved in these discussions because the future of this field depends on building that trust and understanding.
Well said. This has been such an incredible journey into the world of stem cell research.
It really has.
You know, from creating those mini spines in a lab
Yeah.
to the potential for personalized medicine, it feels like we're on the verge of a medical revolution.
We really are. And it's been my pleasure to share these insights with you.
And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained a new understanding of how powerful stem cell research can be and how important it is to have thoughtful discussions about the future of this technology.
That's what it's all about. Stay curious, everyone.